In this video, we're going to be looking at using third-party libraries and applications in the ServiceNow SDK. In a previous video, we installed the SDK following the instructions here. I'm in the docs site, and I'll put the link in the description. So we installed the ServiceNow SDK, and then we created a project using the link here, create or convert an application. So we followed this using the command line interface. We created a project called, the heck was that called? Example app. Example app. And then we, using this, well, first we set up our authorization, our credentials. Then we use this command to create the app. And then we used, I think we went down to here and we built the app using now-SDK build. And then we deployed the app using now-SDK deploy. So that put the app onto the server here, onto the instance rather. And if we look at this application in Studio, you recall that it's a simple app with one table, a to-do table, and one business rule, as well as it installed a couple of ECMA script modules in the sys_modules table, which is the example app. This is the package JSON, and then the myfunction.js. So let's take a look quickly just to recap. This is the app on the local development environment. So we have the folder structure here, and in the source folder there's the myfunction.js, which comes out of the box when you create the app using the CLI. So it gives us this function, and all this function does is adds an info message for whatever the old status was, and then the new status, another info message. And there aren't any, well, there are some third-party, there are some libraries that are being used here, some packages, but there's nothing that we installed after. These are just stuff that comes with the project when you open it up. When you create it with the SDK CLI. So the result of it is I'm in a record here in that table here. So I'm in one of the records, and if I update the status here, we get these two info messages, right? And those are the info messages that we saw specified in here. And then again, I'm still just recapping from the last video. You can go back to that video to kind of see all the details of this. The way these info messages get called is through a business rule on that table, right? So I'm in a business rule. It's on the to-do table. And let's check this up a little bit. Okay, and we have this require statement, which goes to source myfunction.js, and then we're doing show status update, which is a function inside of this myfunction.js, and we're giving it two parameters here. We're giving the current value of the status field and the previous value of the status field. So this maps to the module here. Right, that's this module here, my function, and here is, we can see it here, but we can't modify it here. This is the exact same thing as we're seeing in the VS Code. Okay, so that's where we are. So now what we're going to do today, and let me get my scope lined up here to be in the right scope. What we're going to do today is add a package to our application, and sort of off-the-shelf package, if you want, and we're going to reuse the code inside of that package. So this is really the power of the ServiceNow SDK is all those packages that have been created out there throughout history are all available to us. Well, within certain limits, they all have to be compatible uh, with uh, they basically have to be vanilla JavaScript, and they can't be like specific for Node JS, or there's some other limitations, but still, that's a whole lot of packages that are available to us. So what we're going to do today is install the uppercase package, which you would probably, I can't really think of a way of a use case for this in reality, but it's just a simple package that takes a string input or has a function that takes a string input and makes it uppercase, right? JavaScript has this sort of natively, so I'm not sure why you'd ever need this. But I'm sure it probably has a use that I'm not aware of. So anyway, we're going to install that, and we are going to put it in here, and then we're going to create another business rule to call that. So let's head back to the documentation, and let's go to this one, use third-party libraries and applications. So we'll go down to the procedure here. So in VS Code, open your scoped application directory. So I have that fired up already. Right, my example app, I have that. And we looked at this structure here. So now it says from the application directory, open an integrated terminal window. Okay, we'll do that in a second. And then install the npm package for the library. So using this command, npm space install. So let's fire this up here. And I have my terminal window already fired up. You can do that VS Code over here with new terminal. And so we're going to go npm space upper case. And actually, before we even do that, and I think we need some quotes there, go find the package you want to install, and they'll give you a lot of useful instructions here. So here's my package, and I'm on npmjs.com. And so here's my package here, uppercase, and here's the installation instructions. So we can actually just copy paste out of here. It's safer than having to type stuff. So let's delete this. Do this. They have this -- save, but you actually don't need that anymore. We'll just leave it in there, see if it complains. So this is going to go ahead and install that package into the node_modules directory over here. That takes a few seconds to run. Now, if you remember in the last video when we did the install of the ServiceNow SDK, we used the global flag, right? So that installed it in general for the entire node installation. Here, we're just installing it for this particular application. So you can see we're in this Michael local example-app. So it's just going to install it in this directory. So we do get these complaints about this ServiceNow, and we saw this in the last video as well when we installed, I can't remember what it was, building it or something like that. We see these complaints. I'm not sure what's going on with that. I think maybe because 16 is required and we're using a later version. So, but it doesn't hurt anything. Everything runs. So we get this, added one package. And now we're back here. So now if we go into the node modules directory, we should see uppercase. Here it is, uppercase. Perfect. Okay, so our next, let's go back to our instructions here. So we installed those and we looked at where that went. Okay, now it's just telling us about the library's packages are added to your application in the in the node modules directory. We just saw that. And the library is added as a dependency in the package JSON file. So we should have probably looked at that before we ran this thing, just to prove that the NPM actually modified it. But we'll have to just, you'll have to believe me on this one. So if we go down to the package.json file, we can see dependencies, uppercase is in there now, along with the version number. Okay. We'll go back here. So now, in a JavaScript module, import the library using an import statement. In this example, the module includes a namespace for importing the Lodash module. Okay, so here they're importing the whole darn thing. And then they give you another example where they're importing a camel case from Lodash. Okay, so this can be a little bit confusing because they talk about in a JavaScript module, and you might not know what the heck is that. So module is basically just a file. What we'll do, and actually, so the instructions would have been in here when we do create and use JavaScript modules in this previous section, right? This is where we, in the source directory, create a JavaScript or TypeScript file that contains the module code you want to reuse. Okay, so that's basically we're following this. So let's go to that. Let's go back to Visual Studio. We'll go to the source directory, and we'll do new file, and we'll call this one myfunction2.js. Okay, let's go back to our right here, and so 3 optional: import the global glide APIs to call them from a module. In this case, we don't really need that. So we won't use this. Basically, this allows you to use, I think, all of the everything you get with the Glide APIs, server side. So here they're using GS. This was to do the add info messages. Remember, this was from the example. This was in the regular my function, right? They're using GS because they're doing add info message. We won't be doing that in here. We're going to do that in the business rule instead. So we won't need that. But if you want to do anything with Glide classes, you can import this in your function. Just for simplicity's sake, we're not going to do that. Okay. But what we do want to do is import the third-party library at this point. So let's go back to here, to the usage, and we're going to import these 2 methods or functions, uppercase and locale uppercase from uppercase. Okay, so again, this is just the package documentation. So we're back to our new module here, myfunction2.js, and I'll stick my import statement in there. Okay, now you notice Visual Studio or VS Code grays it out a bit, so because it's not, once you reference this, then it will, right, see, all imports in this import declaration are unused. Once you reference it, it'll sort of brighten up and be the regular color. Okay, so let's go back here. And so now the next step is to export the code you want to reuse. Right, so in the module, identify the code to export with export statements. And okay, so what I do here to keep it simple is I just copy something that's already existing. So I see this is the out of the box function. So I just take this import block here, go over to my function here. I will paste this. And let's just modify it a bit. So we'll change the name of the constant. We'll change this to, let's just call it test upper. Okay, and we won't feed it 2 parameters. We'll just feed it 1 parameter, and we'll call this input string. Okay, that's the name of the parameter. Maybe that's not a great name. Maybe we should just call this string for Transform, I don't know. It's probably not a great name either. Anyway, this is what will feed this is whatever string we want to make uppercase. We'll get rid of these. And let's go back to our documentation for how do you use the darn thing. So you use it by just doing uppercase and then in parentheses whatever string you want to make uppercase. So we'll copy that. Go back here and paste that in here, uppercase string. So this is going to output, like it says in the documentation, string, right? We don't want that. But what we do want is for it to uppercase whatever we give it over here. So whatever is in this input parameter, so string for transform. And let's see, do we want to do a return there? I think we do. Yeah, we wanted to return this. And then we're going to do the info message business inside the business rule instead of in here. So this is just going to return uppercase of whatever we give it. All right, we're going to save that. Let's go back to our instructions here. So we've created the module and entry points. I think we don't need to do this because it's, I think that is automatic. Or this might be for, right, okay, yeah. For external modules and scripts, right? We're not doing that right now. Everything is inside of this application. So let's go back here. Now that we have our module sorted out, we'll go back here. And so we were here in the JavaScript module, import the library, right? We did that. And then call the call code imported from the library in your module to reuse it, right? So that's, we did that as well over here. So basically we called this third-party library, uppercase here, and then we reuse it down here with an export, right? So we basically make this functionality available to the platform, as we'll see, to a business rule in the platform. We make that available by using this export piece. All right, so what do we do next is build and deploy your changes to the instance. Easy enough. So we can go over here. And so first thing they ask you to do is to do a fetch. So this is important because if you have made some, this will give you the latest changes if you've made them to the instance. So if we were in here and, you know, let's say I added a business rule or say I made some changes in here. It will grab the latest changes from the instance. That's why we do the fetch. So let's go ahead and do that. In fact, before we do that, let's just throw something in here to show how it fetches. So let's say, yeah, create application file. We'll just do say we do a business rule. And we'll just call this new BR, and this will be on the to-do table. All right, it's not happy with that. Let's call it by name. There it is. Okay, oh, it's to-do, that's why. Okay, when to run, we'll say we'll run this on insert. Doesn't matter. This is not really, and we'll just say, I don't know, set the status to DD. Okay, and we'll submit that. Now, if we look at the before picture, so I believe, no, not target. It is, let's see, where is this thing? Metadata. update. Yeah, so I think it is this. And so right now, so these are the objects that are, or the artifacts that are part of the existing application, right? So we have this syscript, right? This is the existing business rule. This is the log item change business rule. That's this guy here. And then we have a table and some forms and some list layout. And I think those are more or less in here, right? The documentation, this is like the labels. This is the, yeah, here's the status column. Here's the task column. I think this is the table, right? This is the business rule. This is the list. This is the section, the list view, the section, etc. So basically all the artifacts are in here in this update folder. And these are the same artifacts that if we go to the application and we go to the application record and we see these application files here, maybe sort by, it's these files here. So there's 17 of them. Now this won't match up exactly because the ECMA script modules are not downloaded. Somewhere it tells you that in a few places. These are not downloaded, only the other stuff. So like the dictionary entries, the field labels, etc. So all the rest of that stuff. Okay, so we see there's only one business rule right now, syscript. Let's do a fetch. So it is now-SDK fetch. And so now it's going to go up to the instance and grab everything off of there for this application. And I think it gives you a little printout of what it did. Or maybe that's when you do the deploy, actually. I'm not sure it does that. Let's see. Okay. So yeah, here we go, right? List of downloaded metadata files. This dictionary, this package inventory, sysapp, and then this guy here. So here we go, update/sysscript, right? Ending in C3 over here. So if we go here, and I think we got to refresh this, we can now see C3, right? This is the additional business rule that we created on the server just now. What do we call that thing? Yeah, see, new BR, the very descriptive new BR. So that piece is in here now. Okay, so that was the fetch. That was the first piece. So it's going to grab the latest artifacts or metadata. Now, step 3 is build your application using the build command. And we did the same thing in the last video when we did the out-of-the-box project. So we do now-SDK build. Go over here, back to our terminal window. Now SDK build, and you always just make sure you're in the directory for the application example-app and not in any of the child directories. So this does take a few seconds to build, and if you have any problems at this point, it will send you some warnings. So for example, say you import from a module that is not in the modules directory, it's going to complain right here with one of these warnings, right? So here's one of the warnings I was talking about earlier in this video about if you use third-party NPM modules, ensure that they use only scripting features supported by the Now platform. So there's a list of things that won't work with the Now platform. Right, so they give you some additional warnings on that. Don't use asynchronous function or disallowed Node.js or browser APIs, right? So this basically has to be more or less vanilla JavaScript. And then, yeah, for more information, now documentation. Okay, we're still building. Okay, so it gives you some information about where it bundled, where it put all the artifacts. Um, okay, right, building it, generating the XML into the output directory. Right, and the output I think is just a zip file, I think. All right, I got to stop myself from exploring stuff while let's stay let's stay on track here. So okay, build is done, and there were no here we go. Single artifact admitted as right. All this stuff. Target example. There you go. So it goes into the target directory, which yeah, right here. Right. So it zips the whole thing up into one. Okay, great. So now let's go back to our instructions again. And now we deploy the app. Pretty simple. So they talk about using the auth and then the alias. Since the one that we created is our default, we don't need this piece. We can just do now SDK deploy. So I'll paste that in there, do the deploy. So now it's going to take this file basically that we just built and upload it into the server. Great, that was pretty quick, and it gives us a printing most recent installation stats. Right, so updated 1, and it gives you that this is like the what do they call that thing? Well, if you're committing an update set and it talks about some of the conflicts, or better yet, this is actually closer to when you go through when you update an application and then you have to go through the I think it's skips, or I forgot what it's called, but you go through the upgrade history table to figure out what it might have skipped over. So, all right, everything is good here and deploying. Okay, so now let's go take a look on the instance at what it did here. So right now we have 17 files. I'm going to refresh this, and I'm in the application record here for example app. We're going to just reload that. Okay. So now we have 20 files, right? What do we have? 17 before? I should have remembered that. So the files that are new, and maybe that's in the updated column, that must be these 2033. Yes. So it added 3 of these modules, right? And if we mouse over here, we look at source my function 2, right? That's correct. That's what we created. The uppercase module, that's the package that we downloaded that myfunction2 references, and then a package.json for the uppercase. Because remember that a package will have other dependencies, right? So uppercase is probably dependent on some other files, which I'm tempted to click in there, but I got to stay on track here. So basically, it's going to go and it's going to make sure that we have all of the dependencies for uh, for the module. Okay, so now that's in there. So next step is we want to call this new module and we said we're going to do this in a new business rule. So we'll make this simple, and we'll go to our existing business rule, the one that calls the other out-of-the-box function, and we'll just do an insert and stay. Okay, and we're going to call this one test upper, I think we called it. Okay, when to run, we'll keep this the same. We'll run after every update. And in here, instead of show status update, we're going to get this from, and this is where I have to remember. Let's go back here and remember what we called it. So we called this test upper. Test upper. And we get this from source myfunction2.js. And then we're going to call test upper. And remember, test upper, I believe it just takes one value, right? Which is the string for transform. Yeah. And then it returns that value. So let's give it the current value of status. Got too many parentheses here. Okay, we'll give it the current value of status. And so let's do var status upper. Okay, and then we'll do the gs.add info message here. Test upper. No, sorry. Status upper. Right? So I'm going to send the current value of status over to my function. That's going to, and my function is going to call uppercase, the uppercase package, transform it to uppercase, and send it back. We're putting it into the status upper variable, and then we're just going to show that variable in a info message. So this is already running too long, but I will just add this comment. Though we saw earlier how you can do a lot of glide record functionality or glide class functionality in here using this package, ServiceNow Glide, right? Like they do info message directly in here. I think it's better to do as much of this as possible in the, I lost my thing here, in the platform. And the reason for that is you can modify this in the platform, right? If it's in a business rule and I say, I don't like info message, I want it to be an error message instead, right? It's as easy as going in here and modifying add info to add error, right? But if this piece is in the actual module, then I have to go into Visual Studio, I have to fetch the latest, I have to make the modification, I have to build it, I have to deploy it to get it back into the instance. So there's a lot more steps involved. It seems to me it's better to do this kind of stuff on this side as much as possible. That statement is subject to change. But that's my instinct in looking at this and the way it's built. Okay, so this is what we're doing. Let's save this. And let's see if we can, let's give it a run and see what happens here. So we should be getting both this existing info, these info messages from the my function, and then we should get another message from the myfunction2. So here we'll just make a change here. I'll save it. And there we are. See, so it transforms whatever I have in the status to all uppercase. So all lowercase. Yeah, this field is like, I don't know how they did that. You can only put like 10 characters or something. Save, right, there we go again. So it's doing that. So this is really using a third-party library, uppercase, to perform a transform. And so I'm sure you can see by now, I mean, the power of this thing, right? I mean, all those, or many of those, I should say, packages that are available could be available to do lots of stuff in here. Really exciting, really powerful. And I hope to make some future videos on using some actual packages to, or I should say, using some packages to do some actually useful stuff rather than just uppercase to start doing some interesting stuff. Thanks for watching.